The following is an AZPM original production.
For AZPM, I'm Mark McLemore, and this is Arizona Spotlight. Coming up, learn about 3 events that all aim to bring our community closer together. We'll talk with participants from the All In for Autism Dino Day and Walk, the PCC's Climate Community Day, and then hear some conversation from John Coinman to celebrate the 40th Annual Tucson Folk Festival. Plus, Stories That Soar wants you to get in on the ground floor with some first grade humor. Those stories are all next on Arizona Spotlight. Later this month, on April 19th, the Autism Society of Southern Arizona is presenting its All In for Autism Dino Day and Walk. This fundraising event invites the community to celebrate and raise awareness about people living with neurodivergence. Next, Kate Elliott, the executive director of the Autism Society, and Ben, a dedicated community member and volunteer, will share their personal experiences living with autism with Sophia Hammer.
I'll start with you, Ben. I want to know briefly about your journey receiving your diagnosis of autism, and do you remember how it first felt to receive that diagnosis?
In order to talk about receiving the diagnosis, I probably will have to take you on the journey of leading up to receiving that diagnosis, which entails me finally taking a hint back in 2022, technically late 2021, after coming back from a huge road trip where I helped a friend of mine move across the country. I didn't expect it to be any more stressful than the usual stressors of a road trip. I don't know how to describe it. It was like something broke within me, and suddenly I didn't have tolerance for things that I thought I would be fine with. I ended up probably experiencing a lot of sensory overwhelm and a lot of intolerance for sudden changes or lack of context. I couldn't make any sense of it. When I came back from that trip, I was completely burnt out. I had no energy. I had no motivation. It resonated to others like I had suffered some kind of trauma response and was having a very deep depression about it, but it didn't feel like the usual when I experienced trauma. I ended up turning to the internet to kind of figure it out. Thankfully, Reddit was pretty much a great source to look at, because one of the things that popped up about what I was experiencing was looking at traits of autism. I began to start seeing myself in other people's experiences and relating to a lot of what they shared.
Kate, I wanted to ask you, for the Autism Society of Southern Arizona, do you deal a lot with adults who are diagnosed later in life?
We actually have a huge population of people who are diagnosed as adults, and it is a totally different journey. Everybody says things like, I thought there was a handbook everybody else had, or I was just doing everything wrong, and I just didn't fit in. And so it's really kind of a different thing than knowing your whole life, like, oh, this is part of who I am. But it's also a good sign, too. I always want to remind parents that that's why it's so important to teach young kids to be proud of their autism and to embrace it and to self-advocate, because we don't want them to have the really significant mental health challenges that a lot of our autistic adults have.
Kate, do you want to describe how you became director at the Autism Society and your personal connection to autism?
I've been a social worker working with families all over for the past 15 years. But 7 years ago, people started talking about autism with my daughter when she was kicked out of 3 schools in quick succession. And even though I've been working in early childhood development, people weren't talking about autism that much back then. So I found the Autism Society as a place to find what school I could possibly put this child in. And they helped me find a diagnosis and the services and all that. And I joined parent group, and then slowly my life became all autism. My son was diagnosed, then my husband, then myself, and I became the director about 2.5 years ago. And so it's been the greatest journey. I get to talk to the most amazing people all the time, just to have everybody together and be with the community and be able to advocate for my community and listen to everybody. It's really a blessing.
Ben, how has joining the Autism Society changed or impacted your life?
It's been great showing up to a space where I can just be around a lot of other folks like myself across the spectrum. And it's nice coming into a space that I can show up with the needs that I have, with the quirks that I have or whatnot, and it's fine. And it can even be accommodated, or I can self-advocate and it's not a burden to people or anything. It's nice to feel normal in my autism. It's also great being around people who really understand because they've been through it too. For the longest while, autism was only looked at in one specific way and not the full spectrum that it is. So I would always discount myself every single time. And even after self-affirmation initially and then formal diagnosis, I felt a sense of imposter syndrome because of how much I had been high masking. And I think it was crucial getting through that point to get to the other side of feeling confidence, of feeling a sense of pride in myself, or just a sense of self-acceptance. A lot of the trauma I had specifically surrounding my autism was just not being allowed to be me. There was a whole lot of just trying so hard to fix myself when there's just certain things I cannot fix. I have to learn how to live with them and figure out why I do what I do.
You mentioned some events you're involved in with the Autism Society. What activities are included in those events?
First Saturdays is the support group for adults who are diagnosed with autism. As support groups go, we kind of circle around and we talk about our journeys. We resonate with each other about different topics, certain things we discover about ourselves with regards to things like stimming or special interests, or we even talk in more depth about what we struggle with. It's great coming together on Saturday mornings and being able to just be in a room full of folks who understand those struggles and also understand when we have the small victories in the midst of them. And then on the first and third Fridays are our social clubs. The first Fridays, the social club is held virtually over Zoom. And that's, an awesome time for us to just be in our own space, but we get to be together online as a community. And some of us break off and play games together. Others, we kind of just sit around and talk. And then on the third Friday, we show up together in person in the community space and we hang out. We have different things there. We have a little arcade room where we can play basketball or we can do karaoke. We have Miss Pac-Man, or we just end up milling around talking. Lots of people show up to Social Club. It's the event of the month.
Kate, do you want to talk a little bit about the All In for Autism Dino Walk and Day that's coming up?
It's our biggest fundraiser of the year. It's April 19th at the TCC, and we're bringing the walk back. You can just come and enjoy all the activities inside. We have so many things going on, of course, like all sorts of dinosaur crafts and science, and we have Jedi training and characters as Bluey's doing story time, and we have a reptile petting zoo and an instrument petting zoo, and just all sorts of fun, and the walk's going to be really fun, a lot of interactive dino walking, and all the money raised goes to support all the programming that we have at the Autism Society. It all stays right here locally and supports the work that we do.
Where did the theme of dinosaurs come from?
The event's the day before Easter, and so we were talking about doing something playing with Easter, so it got into eggs, but we didn't want to make it a specific religion or anything. We didn't want to cancel anybody out. Then it was like we could do dinosaur eggs. I've discovered a deep love for dinosaurs.
Thanks to Kate and Ben for telling us about the All In for Autism Dino Day and Walk. There's a link for more information and registration on the Spotlight page at azpm.org. Climate change and sustainability are important concerns for many of us. On Tuesday, April 8th, organizers at Pima Community College are going to raise awareness about these topics by holding a Climate Community Action Day. Next, Tony Paniagua has an interview with two college staff members who were part of the Pima Climate Action and Sustainability Plan.
Dr. Crystal McKenna and Dr. Eric Aldrich, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. What is this organization, or what is this plan all about, the Pima Climate Action and Sustainability Plan?
Yeah, so at Pima, we really believe in bringing climate action and sustainability education out to our community and our learners. So we have a number of targets that help our institution become more sustainable. But on my side of things, I'm in academics. And so our target too is to ensure that all of our Pima learners understand the key principles of climate action and sustainability and can apply them in the field in which they're trained. So we're really trying to get this information out to all learners, regardless of what their major or degree is. This year, I get to actually start teaching the classes that I created last year. So we have a number of classes, 2 science lab classes for general education requirements. We have social behavioral classes. We've got Eric's humanities class. But mainly, I get to teach students who are just starting out in their degrees and just getting some requirements under their belt and figuring out what they want to do. And in the process, they get to learn about how to take care of the planet, how to take care of the people in their community, and how to hopefully make a living for themselves in the future and the future economies that we will live in.
And Eric Aldrich, you teach English, and yet you are involved in this plan as well. Can you tell us about your participation, please?
Yes, the Climate Action and Sustainability Plan Committee has faculty representation from all different parts of the college. And I'm, the representative of the humanities, the English department. I teach Literature 227, which is literature and the environment. We look at how literature represents sustainability topics, things like where your food comes from, how climate has been presented in literature, through history, famous people from Tucson like, Ed Abbey, and then famous writers of climate stuff like Rachel Carson, up to modern writers like Robin Wall Kimmerer and Alison Hawthorne Deming, who's going to be at our Climate Action and Sustainability Day on April 8th.
Eric, I was going to ask you about that as well. So it's not just about let's sit in a classroom and learn all this terminology and find out how the system works, but you are actually hoping that the community can become involved and take this information forward?
Yeah, absolutely. And, in my area of English, one of the things that I like to encourage people to do is, read and write. And there's so much great climate writing going on right now. Of course, we're living through a really crucial period in our planet's history that we have a great impact on. And writing poetry, nonfiction, fiction, these are ways that people can make sense of what's going on, and the ways that they can also document what's going on for, our children's generation, future generations. Then I teach my students to do what we call a phenology journal, where they go and they sit in the same place for 10 to 30 minutes a week, and they document all the changes in the weather and the animal patterns and the plants, and they just can document that change over time so that they can observe how nature is changing and have the experience of interacting with nature through writing.
Eric, what kind of a reaction have you had from students?
Students find this stuff fascinating, and they find it important, and they are usually enthusiastic about it. I will say that there are some times when students feel a little bit overwhelmed, probably. Maybe it's hard for them to picture what an individual can do to have influence. And so I think that working together with other people, seeing that their concerns, or even that the community college is offering them information to help them think through these climate issues, is reassuring. And I think it makes people feel a little less powerless, a little less overwhelmed by a lot of the trends that they see going on, or at least they feel more informed.
And most importantly to me is on the academic side, making sure that all Pima learners understand how they can apply climate action and sustainability principles into any career that they go into and into their community and their personal lives. A lot of our classes have these very personal, explorations of how can you save money? How can you save water? How can you do these things? And many of my students walk away and they say, everyone should know this. Everyone should have to take this class, not just as a person going out into an employment field, but just as a human being in this community, to live in the desert, to not leave too much of an impact, I think is just a really important thing for our future.
Crystal, there is going to be a Climate Community Day on April 8th. What would you like to say about that?
Yeah, our Climate Community Day is an annual event, and we really just love to bring together community organizations, Pima staff, students, faculty, and community members to have these intergenerational conversations that are so important to creating climate solutions. I think it's really important to, like Eric said, not feel overwhelmed and not feel alone in our pursuit of these goals. And our Climate Community Day is really highlighting a lot of the reasons why we have hope here locally, and in our global progress and everything. And so we're really hoping to highlight some of the big accomplishments locally here, and also come together and brainstorm even better solutions for the future.
Dr. Crystal McKenna and Dr. Eric Aldrich, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Climate Community Action Day is Tuesday, April 8th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Pima Community College's downtown campus. The event is free and open to the public. There's a link for more information about all of the events we are covering this week on the Spotlight page at azpm.org. A wise person once said, "All music is folk music because it's all for folks." This weekend, the Tucson Folk Festival is celebrating 40 years of bringing harmony to our city's music-loving community. And next, I talk with one of the festival's most popular recurring guests, singer and songwriter John Coinman.
It's been held together by the fabric of the community and all of the volunteers that you see in their shirts and have been doing it for year upon year upon year, and holding the Tucson Folk Festival together through thick and thin during those years when Jim Lipson was president, and they went through the COVID, and they went through some hard times in general in the country and the community. And he and a small group of people held the folk festival together, and now it's blossoming and growing again with new personnel, and the same people are volunteering behind the scenes.
John, can you just tell me about your personal history with the festival?
Well, I came to Tucson in 97.
Came here from where?
No, in 94. I think it's from L.A. It was in 94 because I remember my son was 5-6 years old, and we moved here. And I had just released A Man Called Someone, that first solo CD of mine. And Michael Landwehr, who was at the KXCI, the music director at KXCI, got a hold of it and really liked it and began to play it. And I began to kind of, for the first time in my life as a musician traveling around, I felt like I kind of had a home here. It was amazing.
That's a nice feeling.
Yeah, it was. And that naturally kind of poured over into the folk festival because of my style of music. And so here was a place that I could put my music out, and then also could hear it on the radio at KXCI, and for the first time feeling like I had a real sense of belonging, because I had spent the 70s in San Francisco building bands, playing around trying to get record deals. I spent the 80s in Los Angeles doing the same thing, and lived for a while in Nashville, went back to LA again, traveled around, and never found a home. And I found one here in Tucson, and the folk festival became a large part of it.
Well, John, for this year's festival, do you have anything planned? Are you going to be debuting any new stuff?
Yeah, I'm going to play a couple new songs, but one that I'm really excited about right now, and it follows in what we've been talking about. It's a song called Orphan Train, and it was originally started by Kathy Rivers when she and I were working on a song for a movie together many years ago. And she had part of the song written, and it was really beautiful. And she wondered if I could work on it. And so I started work on it, and I got one version of it, and it didn't quite work. And then I just sort of kept it in the back of my head and wrote half a dozen versions of it, and finally came up with one that I really like right now. Back in the late 19th century, during the Industrial Revolution, when there were kids roaming the streets on the East Coast, there were a lot of orphans and a lot of just street urchins out there with no homes. And so the idea was conceived of taking them out into the rest of the country.
Was this to take them to new homes? Were there people waiting to take the kids in?
Sort of.
Sometimes?
Yeah. They took 200,000 kids out into the Midwest. And as is in this song, people would just come to the station, like in Kansas City, and just wait for the train to come and look at the kids and figure out which one they liked and would take a kid home with them.
Oh, gosh, that's worse than getting picked for the baseball team in school.
Yeah. I mean, it's an amazing story. And that's what intrigued me so much about it, the idea of identity, And so I wanted to find a way to finish that song off that was so wonderful that Kathy Rivers started. I loved the idea of it. I wanted it to really resonate. So I want people to hear it. And I want people to hear, it's a Kathy Rivers song. And she's a wonderful songwriter. And I want to honor that.
I interviewed Hal Gelb once, and he said his theory is if you have an idea, a song or a lyric, and you don't grab it and own it, it'll go to Bob Dylan.
That's Hal Gelb.
That's
and Bob Dylan is, in the meantime, saying the world don't need no more songs.
Featuring more than 150 artists across 6 stages, the 40th Annual Tucson Folk Festival takes place this weekend, Friday through Sunday, in and around downtown Tucson's Jacome Plaza. It's free and everyone is invited. John Coinman and his band will appear on the Church Street stage at 5 p.m. on Saturday. When young writers submit their stories to Literacy Connect's Magic Box Story Portal, they get the opportunity to hear their work produced and performed by Stories That Soar. Their mission is to amplify youth voices and help young writers realize the power and potential of bringing their stories to life across all media. There are many famous sayings that we've all heard again and again, but what happens if you ask a first grader to complete these well-known and even cliched thoughts? Here are 3 young pals applying some fresh words of wisdom to make each other laugh.
Famous sayings with a first grade twist. When it rains, splash in the puddles! Woohoo! Life is like the best thing ever! Yay! All that glitters is messy and fun. If at first you don't succeed, go outside and play with friends. You can take a horse to water and you can ride a horse. Woohoo! The pen is mightier than Spider-Man. Woo! Curiosity killed the dead people. The only thing you have to fear is monsters. Famous sayings with a first grade twist.
That was Famous Sayings with a First Grade Twist, starring Santi, Jaden, and Henry from Ms. Helen's first grade class at Fruchtendler Elementary. Go Firebirds! It was produced by Cindy LaFries from Stories That Soar. Aspiring student-age writers can submit their stories, poems, and songs to the Magic Box Story Portal at literacyconnects.org. Make your voice heard at the AZPM News listening sessions on Sunday, April 6th. Join AZPM News for coffee and conversation at the Hemel Park Hub of Cyclovia, Tucson, between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Meet reporters from AZPM News who want to know what local issues you'd like to see covered, including what happens now that Proposition 414 has been rejected by voters. Ride your bike to the AZPM News listening sessions on Sunday, April 6th. For more information, visit azpm.org/events. And thank you for listening to Arizona Spotlight. This show is a production of AZPM. The production engineer is Jim Blackwood. The assistant producer is Sophia Hammer. I'm producer and host Mark McLemore.
AZPM podcasts are made possible in part by donations from listeners like you. Learn more at support.azpm.org. Thank you.